are certain places in the world that people accept are not for them in terms of their price range, because they are literally made for those who can afford luxury living and don't mind spending tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands, and even millions of dollars in order to have a nice place to live. But in New York City, there is a stretch of buildings that go well beyond that belief, as it is known as Billionaires Row, and it has some of the most expensive housing in the world as a whole. So what kind of person wants to be in that kind of housing? Allow us to ask that question. Who lives in Billionaires Row? Be sure to like the video and subscribe to the channel. What is Billionaires Row? So, hearing the intro, you might think you know loosely what Billionaires Row is, and yet it is a bit more complicated than you might think. So, here's a better description of it. Billionaires Row is a set of ultra-luxury residential skyscrapers, constructed or in development, that are arrayed roughly along the southern end of Central Park in Manhattan, New York City. Several of these buildings are in the super tall category, taller than 1,000 feet, and are among the tallest buildings in the world. Since most of these pencil towers are built or proposed on 57th Street, the term has been used to refer to the street itself as well. The area is notable for containing some of the most expensive residences in the world. The top two floors of 157 sold to Michael Dell for $100.47 million in 2015, setting a record for the most expensive apartment ever sold in New York. Another duplex in the building was bought by hedge fund manager Bill Ackman for $91.5 million. The top penthouse at 432 Park Avenue went to Saudi retail magnate Fawaz Al Joker for $87.7 million, and hedge fund manager Griffin is said to have bought 3 floors at 220 Central Park South for $238 million, breaking 157's record for the most expensive home sold in New York City and setting a new record for the most expensive home sold in the United States. Also at 220 CPS, several units were combined into a 4-story mansion costing $250 million. These projects have generated controversy concerning the economic conditions and then zoning policies that have encouraged these buildings, as well as the impact these towers will have on the surrounding neighborhoods as the shadows they will cast on Central Park. So to live here, you not only have to be rich, you also have to be someone willing to put up with the controversy that comes with living there. So who fits that bill? Well, more people than you might think. Michael Dell. If that name sounds familiar, it should. Michael Dell is the head of Dell, the computer maker that's made him a plethora of millions. And in 2015, he spent $100 million to live in 157 Tower that resides on Billionaires Row. And to be clear here, he didn't just buy a place, rather he bought out the top 2 floors of the building, which at the time was the most expensive residential purchase in New York history. And considering that he's worth around $45 billion, he's got plenty of money to burn on a couple of floors of an apartment building. Now, is this excessive? Is this madness? Is this Sparta? Now, we know that one isn't true as the building is in New York. We don't know. But sadly, there are plenty of other people on Billionaires Row that share his desire for high-class living. Number 8, Daniel Oak. Now, this name might not be as familiar with you, so we'll tell you who he is before we tell you where he used to live. Daniel Oak is a billionaire investor, hedge fund manager, and philanthropist. He is the founder, chairman, and former CEO of Oak Ziff Capital Management, a global hedge fund and alternative asset management firm. According to Forbes, he has a net worth of $3.1 billion. He had a place in Billionaires Row that he used to live in before he put it up on the market for $57.5 million. Now, we'll be fair in noting that this place he got was a very nice penthouse and had all the luxurious amenities that a man like him would want, including an apparently breathtaking view of Central Park. But clearly it wasn't everything he wanted, as he then sold it, and he's not the only one of his kind to go and get a place on the row. Number 7, Bill Ackman. Not unlike Oak before him, Bill Ackman is an investor and hedge fund manager. He is the founder and CEO of Pershing Square Capital Management, a hedge fund management company. Ackman has been considered an engaged activist investor, which is long-term in nature, but all you really need to know is that he's rich and he's able to afford things like real estate on Billionaires Row pretty easily. Such as when he went and spent $91.5 million on a 13,000 plus square foot apartment back at 157 on the row. And if you look inside the apartment, you will acknowledge that it is a very nice place, including having multiple bedrooms, bathrooms, and a winter room. But here's where your anger will come in handy, because while he did buy it, he doesn't exactly live there. Rather, he admits to having bought the place for fun, and admits that he might just go and flip it for a profit. Yes, he really did go get a really nice apartment for $90 million just to not even live in it and flip it for profit later. Number 6, Fawaz Al Joker. A very common trend in the world today is hearing about royal family members from certain Middle Eastern countries going and throwing their wealth around in order to show that they have it. Such was the case in 2016 when real estate giant Fawaz Al Joker went and spent $88 million on a couple of floors at 432 Park Avenue on Billionaires Row. Oh, and guess what? He got it on sale, as the original asking price was $95 million. Oh, what a savings. Now, regardless of how you feel about it, he did get a nice place with plenty of bedrooms and bathrooms that satisfy him and anyone else who comes to his place. Sting. No, not the wrestler, the other Sting, though the wrestler is arguably cooler, just saying. And at 220 Central Park South, you'll find Sting there, as he went in 2019 and bought an apartment suite in the building for $65 million. The irony of this entry, though, is that he has an equally valuable apartment at Central Park West that he sold for $50 million and used that to go and get the new apartment. Didn't realize Sting was that wealthy? Well, he's had a lot of hit songs, including Roxanne, which is said to be where he got the money for the first apartment, so go figure. Number 4, Kenneth C. Griffin. Continuing on with a trend from before, Ken Griffin is a hedge fund manager, entrepreneur, and investor. He is the founder, chief executive, and co-chief investment officer and majority owner of the investment firm Citadel. Citadel operates with an estimated $33 billion in investment capital. Sister firm Citadel Securities handles 2 out of every 5 stock trades. So yeah, he's kind of a big deal. And he proved that when he bought a penthouse at Central Park South for $240 million. Yes, he did that. And what did he get for that purchase? 3 whole floors of the building. Why? Because he can. Dimitry Rybalilev. Yep, the Russians are here. Don't worry though, this wasn't during election season. Anyway, in 2011, very rich Russian Dimitry paid $88 million for a penthouse on Billionaires Row. Or more accurately, it was his daughter Katerina who went and bought it via the wealth she had gotten from her father's business. That business? Fertilizer. Yep, for real. The mystery owners. While it's fair to say that there are a lot of people who flash their purchases in regards to their big name buys on Billionaires Row, there are some who would rather keep quiet about it. After all, we've only shown you a handful of buyers, and that was by design because these are the names that we know. There are more people who live there, obviously, but many prefer to remain quiet about why they live there or how much room that they've actually taken. But even with all of that, there is one last thing to note. The irony of Billionaires Row. As revealed in the earlier parts of the video, Billionaires Row was built for those who could afford the lavish housing life. But if you look at the row right now, about 50% of its apartments are empty. Yep, no one is living there, and you might think that's shocking, but it's not because you have to be really rich to live there and then stay there. That's part of the reason why many people don't like Billionaires Row, because it's not doing anything other than accentuating the fact that certain people are rich and others aren't. So what do you think? What do you think of this look at Billionaires Row and who exactly lives in these insanely tall and pricey structures? Can you believe the people who are willing to shell out money just so that they can have a place in this row of buildings? Do you think they're slightly nuts for doing it in the first place? Would you ever want to live in Billionaires Row if you had the money? Let us know in the comments below. Be sure to subscribe, and we'll see you next time on the channel.